My name is Joan Goodrich, and I'm Economic Development Director for the City of Delray Beach and the Delray Beach CRA. On behalf of the host committee for Go Build Delray, with Jackie, Kristen, Kay, Elizabeth, and I, we are so pleased that you've joined us today for this wonderful experience of learning and networking. I'd like to thank and also recognize our sponsors for today, the city, the CRA, Florida Small Business Development Council at FAU Division of Research, our Delray Beach Public Library, who's done an amazing job at hospitality this morning, so hopefully you've enjoyed breakfast and wait till you see lunch. We also thank Chuck and Stewart and Shelby Development, Kaufman Lynn. A lot of what today is all about has been in the works for some time. In fact, I see several of you from our community, from our Northwest, Southwest community, the set, a lot of conversations with our friends at the West Atlantic Redevelopment Coalition that have said that we can do more in growing our own businesses here in town and also in keeping it more local. So what business we have, let's try and do it together so we can keep more money circulating in our economy. I'd also like to recognize some of our other economic development partners that have joined us today. Jeff and Renee from the CRA, Christina and Danielle from the Chamber of Commerce, thank you. We've got Michael from Career Source Palm Beach County representing our Career Cottage, which is our place in town where we match people with opportunities. So if you're looking for great people, please see Michael and our team at Career Cottage. And we also have representatives from our Florida Women's Business Center, Marjorie Ferrer, who is also wearing another hat, which she has up here at the table, with the Daughters of the Revolution, who has scholarships for women in the construction trades. So please, I know this industry welcomes the development of all talent, but in particular for our women, we've got some special opportunities, so please come see Marjorie. But to get us started, I'm so pleased that Mayor Shelley Petrolia is here with us today to talk a little bit more about our plans as we move forward. So please help me welcome Mayor Petrolia to the stage.
Thank you, Joan, and it's great to be here. I definitely dressed the right way. From my kicks to my pants, I was afraid that maybe I would be coming in here and would have been dressed inappropriately, but it looks like I'm right on spot. First of all, I just wanted to say good morning and welcome to the 2018 Go Build Delray, SubCon and MiniCon. I'm Shelley Petrolia and pleased to kick off this half-day conference of learning, networking, and discussions on how together we can grow the construction, the real estate, and development industries in Delray Beach for Delray Beach. Did you know that construction, real estate, and development is the third largest industry sector of our local economy based on the number of businesses? You only need to look around town and throughout the region to see how busy you all have been in constructing and renovating residential, retail, office, hotel, and mixed-use projects, all shapes and sizes. The city's Development Services Department, comprised of our Planning and Zoning and Building, recently published its fiscal year numbers for 2018, which just concluded on September 30th. They are impressive and nearly record-breaking. In fiscal year 2018, the city issued more than 10,600 permits with a construction value of $855 million and completed nearly 28,000 building inspections, almost topping our best year of 2012. So congratulations. Of course, the result of all this activity is new, well-paying jobs, new and redeveloped places and spaces for residents, businesses and visitors to live, work, and play, more dollars circulating in the economy, along with more revenues for the city to provide quality local government services to you and to the community. As you grow, we grow. And that's the importance of this new economic development initiative our Office of Economic Development has named Go Build Delray Beach. I know Joan Goodrich will be providing you with more information at the end of the day about our next steps and our efforts. I simply wanted to let you know that you are an important part of our economy and community, and I thank you for your contributions that you are making to Delray Beach and making it the best that it can be. Enjoy the conference, and a special thanks to the library, Small Business Development Center at FAU, the City CRA's Office of Economic Development, and the sponsors for making today possible. And just a quick add, as a mayor of this town and as the chairwoman of our CRA, it is very, very important that you're here today and that you are considering building within Delray Beach, because this is something that we need in order to be able to sustain our future. And it's just amazing to me, and I know you guys are the ones that are not afraid to get up in the morning, even on a Saturday morning. It's probably just, a regular day for you, but it's really amazing to see the numbers that have come out today. I'm just overwhelmed. So thank you all, and I hope that each and every one of you gets something from this, and I hope to see each of your faces maybe over at City Hall or at the Planning and Zoning Department soon. Thank you again.
Mayor, we've started a new tradition. Again, the Go Build Delray initiative, as you know, is new, but we'd like to present the ceremonial hammer for launching this new initiative with us today, and we think you just nailed it. So.
Well, I thank you for my hammer, and I just have to I want everybody to understand this. At one point in time when I was newly married, my husband asked me what I wanted, and I said a toolbox. So he got me one of those tall ones, so this is going into my toolbox. Thank you.
And now at this time, I'd like to introduce our very own Jackie Ramirez. She is a certified business consultant for us here at the Small Business Development Center. She's been with us in Delray Beach now for almost 2 years as our full-time business consultant. She's available to you at least 5 days a week. I think she probably works more than that with the business owners that she has the privilege of doing. So at this time, Jackie, we turn it over to you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask my first panel of speakers to go ahead and start walking up and take a seat while I talk with the group for a minute. So on behalf of the SBDC at FAU, Division of Research, go ahead. Okay. So Carlos was, you're not going to see his picture up there because he was kind of a last-minute add to this. He's doing us a favor. And you'll see him again. And all of these gentlemen you'll see later on as well. And I'll introduce them in a minute. The program today is very casual in the sense that it's going to be a Q&A. We're going to have a conversation amongst us. So we kind of know all the stats and the details. What we want to talk about is what does that mean for the subcontractors and the contractors, and how does all of this opportunity that's coming into the city affect how they're thinking about the work that they do, and what are the requirements. So I'll be asking some questions, but there should be time within the panel discussions for you to ask questions as well. If you're a bit shy, there are cards on the tables, and you can write them down and hold them up, and I'll grab them and I'll ask the questions for you, okay? So I'm going to step up here for a minute, just so I'm close to these guys. Get this out of my way. And you have here in front of you 4 individuals that have been involved in the construction industry in Delray for quite some time. So you have Chuck Halbert with Stewart and Shelby Development. And Chuck has been in construction industry for 40 years plus. I'm telling your ages now, aren't I? Okay. He was Delray Beach Business of the Year in 2013 and 2014. He's been the Business Person of the Year. He's held a number of executive positions in business and civic groups, including the Chamber of Commerce, the Arts Garage, City Advisory Groups, Gold Coast Builders Association, to name a few. Then we have Joseph Sanchez. Joseph is president of D. Stephen Construction. What's it like working for Dwight?
He's a great guy to work for.
That's going to be amazing.
Talk about sports a lot. You know, so.
I bet you do. He has 30 years of experience in the construction industry, previously with Palm Beach County School District, where he oversaw more than $2 billion in construction projects. And then we have William Hatcher with over 20 years, for over 20 years in the construction industry with his brother. They've built Hatcher Construction into a full-service general contractor. We have Carlos Lorenzo from Kaufman Lynn. And Carlos was actually very involved in the building of the national headquarters, correct?
I developed the national headquarters for us as a company.
Yep.
Yeah, so from end to end.
Exactly. So a lot of work with bidding, bid process approvals from A to Z, and he's going to be speaking as well later in the morning. Okay. So just a quick check. How many of you are actually in construction owners or subcontractors? Raise your hands. Okay. And then there's quite a number of you who service the industry, correct? Engineers, there's engineering groups in here and so on. So as we talk, we're going to be talking about the impact on the subcontractors and construction owners, but your questions are going to help us kind of fill that out, okay? So we heard from the mayor regarding the future prospects of the construction activity in our region. So my first question to you, the gentlemen, is going to be, each of you have been in business for over 20 years. What has you particularly excited about where the industry is now and what's happening? And I'm taking volunteers for answering the questions.
I'll take that first one. Right now, as we see how the market had changed and grown over the last couple of years, I think we all, whether you're in construction, engineers, or whatever, suppliers, it's a great time for us, and we all should be excited. We hope this continue for the next, decade or so, and that's my outlook. I think it's a time to grow, the time to prepare for retirement, just a time that's good in general.
One of the things that I see, particularly right now, I mean, I learn stuff all the time, and sometimes you go to these conferences and workshops, and you think you've heard it all before, but I always pick up a new nugget of information, something interesting. The thing that I've seen is technology is just is making its way further into construction. Construction has been slow to adapt to some of the technology, but some of the things that some of the tools that we're using, like Procore, is a great tool for us that allows us to have 24/7 access to information on our job sites, regardless of where they are. That's an exciting thing, and seeing the integration of that between the project management and the accounting stuff, it's finally starting to happen for real. People have been talking about it for a long time, but even the technology with 3D printers now, that's kind of blows me away. I was at a conference recently where I saw a house built with a 3D printer, right? So where they load the concrete into this machine that basically spins around and builds the walls for the house. I'm like, man, so the technology out there is just amazing, the things that could be done, and I'm excited about the future.
How did you do this 20 years ago before you had all this technology?
Yeah, well, we did everything with on pens and paper, and they had spreadsheets back then, so we had that back then. So, but the stuff that we're using now is just so much more. You could do so much more with fewer people right now, actually. So. We have to be careful not to stress out people out too much, but you're able to get a lot more productivity out of folks as well.
Good. Okay. Chuck?
Yeah, I can add just, touching on what they both said, the same thing with the current market and the industry. For me, it's having been an executive with a couple national builders my whole career, what excites me is this is my 12th year in business on my own. We've grown from starting with 4 people to 14, currently looking for a new office currently, and I'm excited at the good times to come ahead, hopefully.
Who's going to build your new office?
I do it.
Well, yeah, I know, right, yeah. We'll see what's going to happen. I got to sell the other one first.
Okay, good. Carlos?
So to echo what a lot of the folks up here have already said, technology has allowed us to sort of expand our focus, not so much in the day-to-day business, but instead of working in the business, we're working on the business. So we're starting to expand territorially. We're looking at other opportunities. It's diversity of focus. So whether it's a new platform associated with estimating and bidding, which I know we'll talk about here shortly, or it's just focus on project management and day-to-day, just the fundamental blocking and tackling of it has just made it so much easier. Not only that, but when you do train folks and you do invest them into the process, they tend to take that information and permeate it throughout the associates. So you train those folks on this new technology, they're able to take that and become subject matter experts and then touch every other associate. So with this technology, it's not so hard to download individuals on information throughout the company. It's much easier now. It's sort of a rapid fire process to get everybody up to speed.
So it's taken the whole training of talent and actually expanded that quickly.
Correct.
And moved it throughout the organization.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and from a company perspective at our size, it's critical. It's
Okay.
critical to be able to take an intern and really get them embedded in the process, get them informed, understand our standard operating procedures, and to be able to move forward in a way that you trust them because you know the systems are there. It's really encouraging, and it helps us move jobs a lot faster. It gets clients a lot happier.
Good.
For us to be able to move through jobs.
Okay, then I have a follow-up question because that all sounds really good. What's not good? What is all of this this expansion, these opportunities? What are you looking at in your organizations that you're having to mitigate or focus on or fix or take an alternative approach?
Well, I'll tell
Is
you-
it all good or is
No,
it?
it's not all
Okay.
good. I mean, the challenge of having a growing market and economy is manpower, and I mean, that's one struggle. I mean, of course, there's inflationary issues that's, kind of compounded by the tariffs that we're seeing going on as well. But
Yeah.
there's a struggle with having enough qualified workers to fill the jobs. And, and we make that more challenging when we put up barriers for people coming into our country who want to do this kind of work, and we make it tougher when we imprison so many people, that we don't have enough workforce. We need to find a better way of fulfilling those jobs. Another thing I wanted to mention also is a challenge is that we still have a challenge, as you can see from the representation on this panel, of attracting women into our industry. And we really need to do a better job of making it more appealing for young people and for women to get involved in our industry, to know that there's opportunities here. We purposely try to recruit women, and we hire them, and we develop them, and then they move on to other opportunities. So that's a big challenge, I think, for us is to fill that workforce.
I'm glad you mentioned that. We did try to get a female on one of the panels.
Yeah.
And we had Virginia Cooper line up, but she got called away by a client.
Okay.
So she had to take care of the client. But that is a concern, isn't it? Anything else that you guys want to add to that?
Well, I think it's exciting. Our own Atlantic High School has a construction academy. I've been volunteering as a GC for the past 7 years for them. My trades will come out and help. We work with the kids. Obviously, the kids can't do all the work. We just finished building our second house. It's the third for the high school, but there's always been a couple women in the program. And some of these kids have gone on to college careers and are currently, Chris Ferguson worked on the Mercedes stadium in Atlanta, and he's working for that company now. And we absolutely need to expand. I mean, the problem is the young kids today want to sit at a computer, and my own included are not in the business. It's named after them, but one's in sports and one's in film, and they don't want to get their hands dirty, which is what I grew up in. The trades are always going to be there. I think it's an exciting career for anybody who wants to get involved.
Well, that's interesting because we've heard the term entrepreneur bandied about a lot, right? And typically, I think we think of technology or new products, right? But when you think of what is an entrepreneur, it's that individual organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. Now, what I'm reading is that's like the perfect fit. Somebody in construction is a perfect entrepreneur because they're taking risks, right? Do you see it that way? Do you see yourselves as entrepreneurs? And
Oh, yes, definitely. When you look at the industry in a whole, we definitely fit into that category with the scheduling, defining the workers, materials, and so forth. That definitely fit the mold.
yeah. So what are some attributes of an entrepreneur? Is resiliency, the ability to go with the flow, the ups and downs, right? Focus, avoiding distractions, investing in the long term, being able to manage yourself cash-wise and growth-wise over time. Finding and managing people, selling themselves. They are the salesperson for the company. So any entrepreneur, you don't have a sales force right away. You have to be the sales force, right? They learn to learn. They love to learn. Self-reflection, self-reliance, that's an entrepreneur, right? So I think younger kids need to see that this is an opportunity as well. If you're an entrepreneurial, this is really an industry for you, okay? You mentioned some of the trends, technology. Are there other trends that, Carlos?
So, it's no surprise as the younger person on the panel. I get a glimpse when I talk to a lot of the folks that are in the industry that are my age range, about how everything is trending from an evolution perspective on how we just manage the business, construct, obviously get clients happy, whether it's the cost platforms and things like that, but prefabricated housing, pre-manufactured components, building materials. You're seeing Silicon Valley investors syndicating billions of dollars, trying to figure out ways to make the process more efficient, make it more effective, try to eliminate some of the variables that we deal with every day, whether it's geographic conditions, whether it's market conditions, just trying to find a better way to keep things more consistent when it comes to staying on schedule and providing the service. So that's been really the big item that we've started to track more or less, starting to see less and less CBS, two-way slab, post-tension product, specifically in some of our other offices, and starting to see more pre-manufactured and engineered systems that are coming already pre-wrapped and dropped to the job site to be able to actually build partition walls, exterior structure walls, things like that. So it's been very surprising to see that trend start to dominate certain markets.
And do you see that the younger individuals coming into the industry, do they tend to be coming in for that sort of work, or is it across the board?
You know, I was going to take a little bit different direction. One of the things that excited me about the industry, you know, maybe 5-10 years ago is the move towards sustainability, right? So everybody wanted to build, you know, LEED certified or green globes and that kind of thing. And then we've kind of moved away from that a little bit, unfortunately. But I mean, it's still there. We still do a lot of sustainable construction, and some of the clients that we work for insist upon it, and some of the clients shy away from it because they're afraid of the cost of it.
The cost.
But what happened on February 14, 2018 has changed the way that we look at construction a lot right now. We do a lot of school construction, and the tragedy that took place at Stoneman Douglas is really impacting our industry and what we see coming down the line. And I'm hoping and praying that we don't forget what happened at Stoneman Douglas, like so many people forgot what happened before then. And so we're part of a group that's putting together a summit somewhere in April 2019 that's going to focus in on how we make our schools safer without making them feel like prisons. And I'm hoping that becomes the new issue that we do. And it's not just schools, it's libraries, it's all kinds of facilities. How do we make them feel safer? How do we make people feel safer and actually be safer without imprisoning our own people in their own buildings. So that's an industry trend I think that could be taken off.
And you did a lot of work with the school. You were working within Palm Beach County
Yeah, I
Schools
worked for Palm Beach County
before.
Schools. Right.
Okay.
Right. So I mean, even before
Significant.
some of Douglas, the focus is on single point of entry. Trying to make sure that we control access to our schools. But I'm hearing from a lot more manufacturers or vendors of door hardware and other products that are intended to make our facilities safer, and I'm hoping that we continue to do that in such a way that's still, like I said, I don't want our people to feel like they're in jail when they go in their buildings, though.
Okay. And another question, you mentioned the tariffs. How is that affecting you as a construction company owner or executive?
So with respect to that type of inflation and the speculative nature of it, we have a tendency where we have to have hard conversations with clients about what it is and what we can and what we can't do. Committing to contracts has become a little bit harder, especially with escalation clauses. Comfort around being able to project a number 6, 9, 12 months from now becomes harder and harder. So it makes the opportunity for that developer to be able to move forward in a pro forma or to go and take a piece of property and really convert it to the vision that he had. It makes it more difficult because we can't commit to our number, therefore they can't commit to theirs. So that speculative nature is not just hurting us while we're actually trying to buy projects out, buy scopes of work out, and move forward with projects, but it's also hurting us in the pre-construction and acquisition side of the business, because if we can't commit to our early on budget deliverable estimates, then a developer is just kind of left toiling there until he can figure it out. So unfortunately, we're just caught in the middle.
So you have to adjust your early proposal
Correct.
to take into account that you may be needing to move that around a bit.
That's right.
Okay.
And at times it can move, at times it can't, but we always have to err on the side of caution. I think I could speak for the panel. We have to protect ourselves from the downside risk of making that commitment and then ultimately having to live up to that number.
I'll give you a real practical example. As general contractors, construction managers, we typically, and I think Kaufman Lynn's the same way, maybe we have to, we typically don't require a bid bond from our subcontractors. So if they give us a price and then they don't honor their price and they just walk away from their contract, we're committed to that number to the client. Meanwhile, that subcontractor's walked away, right? And so it's happened to us in the past before. We do schools. A lot of schools have covered walkways and they're made out of aluminum. Aluminum is one of those areas that's been impacted by tariffs. We had a contractor give us a price for, say, $190,000, and then 2 months later, when they're ready to start the work, they said, "Oh, the price is not $190,000 now; it's $230,000." Well, what are we going to do now? The client doesn't want to pay an extra, $40,000. The guy could just walk away. So now we're still dealing with a situation where we're trying to get the guy to do it for his original price, and the client doesn't want to pay more. So those kind of things happen, unfortunately, quite frequently, and metal affects so many different things, from drywall to roofing to ceiling tiles. I mean, all this stuff is affected by steel and aluminum prices. So it's a pretty big issue.
I'm going to open it up for questions before I ask my last couple. What questions are among you? It's early.
That's more coffee, right?
Okay. Yes. Good.
I'm in the school district. My home base is Atlantic High School, but I have 13 throughout the South District. They have a great construction program, like you said. Have you all tried, reaching students at an earlier age, get into the elementary schools, try to get, their minds molded? Now, unfortunately, all they want to do is sit inside, play Xbox or, video games and tweet or whatever they do now. But I mean, I see a shift in, getting those students out now that they've implemented in the 1 hour or a day of physical education time. So have you all tried to go into elementary, middle schools and try to get those students kind of thinking about expanding outside of just IT? Because like you said, they are incorporating a lot of IT now into new construction as well as other companies. So maybe that could be something that is done.
What do you think?
in the future to kind of get the pendulum to shift and get more younger people in and more women in.
What do you think?
We have not, but I do think it's a great idea. We did get a chance some years back to work with Eagle Nest, and we see how the young students do want to learn, you know, get away from, like you said, the IT, more into the trades. I think back then when we was working with them, we got the opportunity to kind of show the kids how to lay out a building, the foundation, which was kind of neat. It was a learning skill that, you know, they can take on for life, how to square off a building, battle boards and all that stuff. So with the elementary and middle school, I think that is an excellent idea, and that's something maybe we should try to look into in the future.
One of the things, one of my jobs when I was at the school district, I was in the school district for 11 years, is I sat on the committees that looked at career academies and these different programs, including Eagles Nest, and there was always a push from the industry and from the general public to add more construction programs at different schools. And the challenge was that they couldn't fill those programs up. And if you don't have enough students, you can't pay for a teacher. And if you can't pay for a teacher, then the program goes away. And that's what happened to several places. I mean, Delray right now at West Tech, they just opened up the construction program. They can't get enough students. And unfortunately, if they can't get enough students, they're going to have to close their program down. We belong to, we were part of CAPAL, which is this is an organization that brings young students into businesses to tell them about business. So they came in every year with elementary, and I think it's mostly elementary school age kids. And we also invite a couple of times a year younger students, including middle school students, to come into our business, and we tell them about everything that we do. So to be honest, we don't spend a whole lot of time with doing that. If I added up the hours, it may be 20 hours a year that we speak to younger kids. But I don't know what would turn on that light. I mean, maybe I'm not an educator, so I don't know what really works with them. But I'd love to expose them to that opportunity and let them know that there's opportunities in that area.
Exactly. Anyone else?
I think every holiday I like to give out little dump trucks and bulldozers to the kids, so hopefully that gets them excited.
That's cool.
Yeah, but currently, I mean, I'm not in the education side either per se, other than Eagles Nest, so, but I like the idea of that, because, you know, the
Yeah.
kids get these gadgets, obviously, at the holidays or whatever.
Right.
And I grew up in the business, family was in it, sweeping floors, so for me, it was never an option, really. It's what I love doing, you know, taking a piece of dirt. I'm different than these guys mostly. Though William does houses, I'm really a residential guy. That's been my whole career. I'm not the big commercial guy. But taking a piece of dirt in Delray and, you know, 16 weeks later, you got a beautiful house somebody's living in, for me is exciting. Yeah.
Good. Okay, I have, Sean. Mayor?
As a mom, I just want to say that one of the things that I've noticed is exactly what you guys are saying. There is no path for our children to, come into this business. And I don't know how to create that, because you're right, there's a disconnect between the school system and the workforce. And I mean, I'm looking to you guys and saying, is there a way that you all could maybe make that path clearer and easier? Because truthfully, I have people coming to me all the time saying that there's just no opportunities for these young folks to really understand that this is an option for them. And so the only career path, with some exceptions, I mean, I know that Atlantic High has the Eagles Nest program, but that's very unique. It's not something that any other schools that I know of do. And so I'm just wondering, how do we allow these children to understand that there is opportunities here, and how do they get on that path in order to be able to be the next workforce, those that are not interested in going to school? And trust me, it's the only path that we really have right now in the high schools is getting them into college, no matter what. And I think that we're missing that link, that there needs to be a balance there, I see a huge gap, and I am worried for your industry as a result of that, because these kids are not getting out there, they're not getting their hands dirty, and so to expect them to do that when they're in their late teens and early 20s, I think is a problem. So I don't know if your industry can do something to help that. Anyway, just
I think that but I do think that we can. I think the big thing starts with removing the stigma. There's a stigma around construction that it's whether it be a dirty business or not well-paid business. And the reality is that it's one of the largest industries around the world. So I think opening the eyes to a lot of the younger folks and getting them in front of executives and individuals who have maybe risen out of the field ranks, but help them understand the importance of the field ranks, the personnel, the supervisory roles to get to those executive positions is really important. I know at the university level, what we do actively with recruiting interns and prospective new hires, it's critically important to bring them into the business, and we do road shows. We take them to every project we can to give them a flavor for what we do, whether it's multifamily, hotel, condo. We try to give them an ability to look and make a choice. Do you want to be in the field? Yeah. Yeah. And the reality is that the industry is very, very well paid at the moment, and I think these guys can speak to that because we're all chasing around looking for resources, right? So if there's any initiative that comes from what I'm saying right now, because I'm not just trying to blow hot air, it's us collectively getting together as companies and trying to figure out a way, whether it's an after-school initiative or if it's just the kids sitting there instead of you guys and us sitting up here and telling them about the business, right?
Yeah.
And just informing them about the path. So I'd be the first one to tell you that I'd be happy to do that.
Well, and I know that all of you are participants in a lot of the large construction builder associations, right? That's probably a place you could start too, is getting them involved in this.
Yep.
Is there an association that you're part of that helps you market, that helps you grow, that you would recommend to the audience? A builders association? There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to try to say the names because they're all,
The whole alphabet,
they
right?
all have construction in them.
That's right.
So,
Yeah. We belong to a couple of them, and we belong to the Associated Builders and Constructors Association. So that's what we don't belong to AGC, which is another bigger organization, but we also belong to different minority chambers that have our interest, because they're different organizations fight for different things.
yeah.
But getting back to a little bit to the mayor's point, I mean, it's how do we attract, and some of those organizations actually have programs. I mean, there's the ACE Mentor program, which goes into schools, but it's still, again, primarily high schools that they're going after. I think back to what attracted me to the business. First of all, I grew up in New York City, and I remember walking by job sites, project sites, and they used to cut little windows in the fence so you can look through the windows. And I'd stand by the window looking at the guys working and the trucks. That was the thing that for me back in those days. So I think that there's still that attraction, but everybody in Florida drives around in cars, so you speed by construction sites, so you don't really get a chance to see that, right? But I think that there's still that amazement in some little, some smaller people, and I think we have to figure out how to make that connection for them, and once they have that interest, keep them interested in that. So I think there's a way of doing it, and I think that associations are definitely a way to do that, and they're all working towards that. I can't tell you everything that the associations are doing, but I know for sure that each one of the associations have that as a focus area because their members are concerned about the fact that that we have a shortage in our workforce.
Okay. Yes, Roxy.
Good morning, my name is Roxy. I'm a project manager, and I was wondering, what are some of these gaps that you're trying to fill in terms of your workforce that would be attractive to these kids, or where we can start talking to them about that position?
Can I piggyback off of that? I work in the ESC department in the Exceptional Students Education, and I know at least 5 of my students. These are students, they have some learning disabilities, they fall on the spectrum, maybe autism, some other type of learning disorder. But I mean, they would be perfect and fit. And I have a young man. I took a picture because I'm going to take it to my boss next week at our meeting. He freehand drew a structure, and looking at that building, windows, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just the detail that he put into it. His artistic ability is off the charts.
Wow.
We know he won't be able to go, to college because, he has to pass the ACT and the SAT and everything. But, something like this, when I go in now, this gives me, a kind of a new perspective because I'm a job trainer, and my position is to get them prepared, to get into, the workforce, wherever it may be. indeed, because, you know, everybody, you can't be a football player and a basketball, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give me something, you know, outside of that, and things. So, you know, these students, they can and will be able to do the job. So this is giving me something to kind of go in and put on the table for them.
So it might be interesting to start looking at what jobs fit what students or terms. Okay, we're actually running out of time.
To Leadership Delray too. If you haven't attended Leadership Delray, I highly recommend it. A few years ago I did it, and I got to frequent all the, all the schools in the area. We went to Atlantic High, and I was floored with their construction department, whatever they had. I attended the class, all the kids in there, they build a house within, I was amazed, okay? So maybe you tap into that resource over there and go start talking to those kids. And maybe that's that special program you were talking about, but I literally was really impressed with Atlantic High, with what they had to offer for that department. Engineering, architect, everything in that one department. So
Thank you.
We didn't get to Roxanne's.
I'm not sure
Could
we
you
answered
actually take care of Roxanne's question for me?
Just to go back to
Roxy?
that first question, what do we need in the industry, people that we're looking for? For my company, and I'm quite sure the rest of them, you know, we're talking about the shortage of staffing. One of the things that we're looking for is supers, assistant supers, project engineers. Project engineer is a great opportunity, even for the gentleman that was talking about the guy that freehand. That's kind of like an introduction into the construction industry. They may not be hands-on out in the field working, but at least they get a chance to sit in the office, do RFIs, submittals, kind of get familiar with the construction industry as a whole. I think those are the opportunities that we're looking for right now as we grow and looking for more people in the field.
Good. And we have one last question in the back.
Good morning. My name is Sergio Ramos. As the mayor pointed out at the beginning, Go Build its initiative to benefit the Delray State businesses and the community. So the money stays in the city. So how can the developers and GCs give preference or incorporate local subs and material suppliers in their projects?
Make it a condition of approval.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that a little, because and I use a lot of locals, but having been through this in Hallandale, where there was the community benefits plan in Hallandale, which is difficult because there's not a lot of vendors there, and I was actually offering money to them to start something in the school, like Eagle's Nest instead. I thought that would have been more of a benefit, but, so I had a contract that said if the local vendors were within 5%, then I would be willing to use them. You can't just drive the cost up either as part of the problem. So I'm concerned with making it a condition totally. Always locals, for me, would get a preference because it's easier for my clients. I send them to look at materials locally. But we need to get the trades locally also to be competitive. And it's not about lowest bid for me, which I think we're going to talk about at some
Yes.
point. It's never been about that because it's much deeper than that. There's being able to man the job and quality. So lowest bid isn't the priority for me, but I think you can put some stipulations, but you have to be careful because Hallandale actually got some trouble down there with money going to the wrong places. I guess I'll leave it at that in order to get the locals hired, so.
I only said that to wake up Chuck, by the way. No, but in all seriousness, as somebody who's been on both sides, having developed our national headquarters here in the city and having been a part of a lot of the construction projects, in all seriousness, there needs to be a component, a percentage, if you will, and a program structure in incorporating that into the approval process. So we're doing villages at Blueston Park, Art Square, and Hallandale Beach, and have had those same requirements and have been able to sit with consultants and with the city and really get an understanding of what are the subcontractor trades that actually make sense to associate with those percentages, right? Because there's not a big prevalence in electrical and mechanical subcontractors there, but there are a lot of site development contractors and hardscape guys. So you just have to get into the detail of division by division, what can I associate with the city to make everybody happy, right? To your point. So figuring out the trades that are here, we did it on the national headquarters where we associated all of our concrete and all of our concrete placement was from a batch plant here, right? All of our interior woodworking and casework was from the city of Delray Beach. So we were able to accomplish that. I think we had over 20% involvement in the overall campus with subcontractors in the area. So it can be done. It just has to be a concerted effort on both sides.
Good.
Good percentage.
Well, thank you. I think it's very exciting that we're moving forward together in this desire to actually build Delray together and provide jobs, not just beautiful buildings, but actually increase the wealth of the city and the individuals in it. So we're actually going to move on to our next panel. So if you'll give us a few minutes to make some adjustments. You can grab some water real quick, but it's only going to be a few minutes, so don't go too far. Okay? Thank you.